My name is Amber Owsley. I'm 32 years old, and for the last 7 years, I've poured every ounce of my life into building a construction company from nothing. No investors, no family safety net, just grit, calloused hands, and a stubborn belief that if I sacrificed long enough, I could build a life that finally felt stable. And I did. I own my condo outright. My company clears 6 figures a year. I drive a paid-off hybrid sedan that still smells like sawdust from job sites. I've got savings, health insurance, and more tools than I know what to do with. What I didn't have, until recently, was chaos. But chaos always seems to find you the moment you let your guard down. It started the day Evan asked if his ex-girlfriend, Valerie Morrison, could stay with us for just a few weeks. He said she'd lost a client contract and needed somewhere to land. He said he felt responsible. He said it would only be temporary. And I believed him. Because Evan, sweet, soft-spoken Evan, was the type of man who apologized to furniture when he bumped into it. He hated conflict. He hated disappointing people. And Valerie was the kind of woman who counted on men like Evan. At first, she played the perfect guest, washed a few dishes, lit candles that smelled like eucalyptus and influencer marketing, told me she was grateful. But the gratitude evaporated faster than her job prospects. Within a month, she'd fully settled into the condo like it was a spa retreat I was running for free. She woke up at noon, walked barefoot through my kitchen while scrolling her phone, left half-finished creative projects all over the living room floor. She didn't pay rent, didn't buy groceries, didn't contribute to anything but noise. And somehow Evan still defended her. She just needs time, he'd whisper at night. She's going through a lot. I wanted to believe him. I tried to believe him. But every week, my grocery bill got higher. Every week, our boundaries got looser. And every week, Valerie's attitude got bolder. It wasn't just laziness anymore. It was entitlement. She'd lecture us on modern feminism while I came home covered in drywall dust. She'd call the concept of household responsibilities oppressive, then happily let me pay for everything she consumed. She'd talk for hours about how she deserved a soft life, how she was meant for creative greatness, how she was above routine work. But she wasn't above living off me. The first real crack formed one Thursday night in late September. I had just spent 12 hours on a job site, hauling materials, reviewing electrical layouts, and doing the labor myself because one of my guys had called in sick. My back was tight, my legs were throbbing, and I smelled like dust and exhaustion. I opened the fridge, expecting at least some basics, eggs, vegetables, maybe leftovers. Instead, I found a half-empty bottle of almond milk, a bruised lemon, 3 packets of sauce from takeout. That was it. The pantry wasn't any better. Stale chips, a forgotten can of beans, no bread, no pasta, no groceries at all. Valerie was sprawled on the couch, laptop open to an online boutique filled with clothes she couldn't afford. She was surrounded by empty snack wrappers like a raccoon had nested there. I kept my voice steady. Valerie, there's no food in the house. She didn't even look up. Yeah, I know. I meant to go shopping, but I was in a deep creative flow today. You get it, right? No, I didn't get it. I transferred $300 to your account on Monday, I said. That was grocery money. It's Thursday. She finally looked at me, and the look she gave wasn't guilt. It was annoyance, condescension, pity. Amber, she sighed, I'm not your maid or your 1950s housewife. I have my own goals. I let out a slow breath. Nobody said you were a maid, but we had an agreement when you moved in. I cover the financial load, you handle the house while you get back on your feet. That was the deal. She closed her laptop with a decisive snap. Partnership, she said, standing up. Do you know what that word actually means? Because it doesn't mean you get to dictate my time. You had time to online shop, I said quietly. Her expression sharpened, mean, almost triumphant. And then she said the sentence that changed everything. Oh, please, taking care of the groceries is beneath me. Be a real adult, Amber. Providing is your job, not mine. The room went silent. My heartbeat didn't speed up. My breath didn't hitch. Instead, a strange, icy calm washed over me, clean and sharp as glass. I looked at Valerie, this woman who lived in my condo, ate my food, used my utilities, sat on my furniture, and realized something bone deep. She didn't see me as a partner. She saw me as a resource, a wallet, a lifeline, a woman stupid enough to bankroll her laziness. You're right, I said softly. My mistake. And I walked into my bedroom, closing the door behind me. I heard her triumphant scoff. I heard her phone dialing. I heard her telling someone, probably Chloe or Jessica, how she'd put me in my place. But she had no idea. She had no idea that something inside me had shifted, snapped, rearranged itself into a new and sharper shape. She had no idea that this was the last night she would ever speak to me like that, because she had just taught me exactly who she was, and I was about to teach her exactly who I was. The next morning, Valerie thought I'd gone to a job site. I let her think that. I drove past the freeway on-ramp, past the industrial district where my crews were working, and pulled instead into the parking lot of a hardware store that had become my second home. Walking through aisles lined with metal hasps, heavy-duty padlocks, and cabinet hardware, it felt strangely like reclaiming oxygen. A young employee glanced at my cart, full of locks that could secure a small prison, and asked, "You opening a storage facility?" I smiled. Something like that. He didn't need to know I was securing my sanity. Afterwards, I stopped at the most expensive grocery store in town, not out of pettiness, at least not entirely. I wanted the kind of groceries you don't share with someone who mocks you for working 12-hour days. Ribeye steaks marbled like artwork, wild-caught salmon, imported cheeses, fresh herbs, a balsamic vinegar that cost more than Valerie's weekly side hustle income. 2 carts full, overflowing, $900 in groceries, and not a single thing for her. When I got back home, Valerie was still asleep, or pretending to be. Her door stayed shut as I hauled the food in, as I lined up my power drill, as metal met wood with sharp, satisfying clicks. By the time I finished, every cabinet in my kitchen had a new lock. The fridge had a heavy metal hasp bolted to its door, secured with an industrial padlock. Only one person had the keys. Me. I didn't rush. I organized everything in a way that made the kitchen look like a magazine spread, if the magazine catered to revenge fantasies. Steaks in the bottom drawer, fresh vegetables gleaming with cold condensation, spices arranged alphabetically. When I was done, I sat at my dining table and drafted a document, a full breakdown of what it cost to live here. Mortgage, utilities, internet, my auto insurance, streaming services, household supplies, groceries, even the gym membership Valerie insisted she couldn't be her best self without. Total monthly cost, $345. Her contribution? $0. When the page was done, I printed it twice. One for me, one for her. And then I left. My crew knew something was different the moment I stepped on the site. Jake, my foreman, raised an eyebrow, the way only a former Marine can. "You okay, boss? You look peaceful." "I made a decision," I said, and damn, it felt good. By the time I returned home that evening, the storm had already brewed. Valerie stood in the center of the kitchen, flanked by her 2 emotional support hyenas, Chloe and Jessica. All 3 of them stared at the locked cabinets like they'd discovered a crime scene. Scratch marks covered one lock. Someone had tried to pry it open with a butter knife. I set my work bag down calmly. "What did you do?" Valerie shrieked. "What is this?" "My kitchen," I corrected, hanging up my jacket, and I secured my property. "You put a padlock on the fridge," she screamed, voice cracking into a pitch that could pierce drywall. "This is insane. This is controlling. This is abuse." Chloe jumped in immediately. "This is financial manipulation, Amber. Literally a form of domestic violence." Jessica crossed her arms like a courtroom judge. "You can't starve her. That's illegal." I almost laughed. They were ridiculous, but they were also predictable. "She's not trapped," I said, unlocking the fridge with a soft click. "She can walk out the door any time and buy her own food." Their mouths hung open as I pulled out items one by one. Fresh herbs, vegetables, ground beef, a jar of imported marinara. "With what money?" Valerie demanded. "The money you earn," I said simply. "You said doing groceries was beneath you, so now they're not your responsibility anymore." I held out the printed budget like a peace offering dipped in gasoline. "This is everything I pay for. This," I tapped her 0 contribution, "is what you pay." Jessica snatched the page and read it like she'd just discovered a plot twist in a bad novel. "What am I supposed to eat?" Valerie cried, voice thickening with panic. "Whatever you buy," I replied, "just not with my money, and not in my kitchen." I turned my back on them and began cooking. The sound of olive oil hitting the pan was sharper than their outrage. Garlic sizzling, vegetables softening, fresh pasta boiling. It was a symphony. Valerie and her friends fell into a frantic whisper huddle. Every few seconds, I heard pieces of their panic. "She can't do this, right? This is psychological warfare. Let's order food on your card. No, yours. Post this. Seriously, post everything." I plated my pasta, the aroma rich and warm, and sat at the dining table while they watched me with hatred and hunger. Valerie looked at me as if expecting me to break. to apologize, to offer her a plate. She didn't understand something fundamental. I wasn't starving her. I was starving her entitlement. They launched their counterattack an hour later. Valerie posted a long, dramatic rant on Facebook. When you discover the woman you trusted is a monster, when she locks up food to punish you, this is what abuse looks like. She even attached a filtered photo of the padlocked fridge. Chloe and Jessica shared it instantly. This is patriarchy in disguise. Financial abuse is real. Stay strong, Val. Her online followers erupted in predictable outrage. Strangers called me controlling, toxic, monstrous. My phone buzzed only 3 times. One former client, "You okay? Sounds like nonsense." Another, "Good for you. Some people need reality checks." My cousin, "Saw Valerie's post. She always was dramatic." 3 messages, that was it. While she tried to destroy me online, I prepared my next move quietly, methodically. Because Valerie had made one fatal mistake. She assumed her tantrum was the end of the story. She didn't know it was only the beginning. Valerie's Facebook crusade burned bright for a few hours. A little bonfire of outrage fed by performative empathy and strangers who loved drama more than facts. But online fires die quickly. Reality, on the other hand, reality burns slow, controlled, methodical. And that was exactly how I planned my next moves. The following morning, Valerie was still asleep when I left the condo. Her door was cracked open, the room dim and cluttered with piles of clothes she never washed. I could hear the soft buzz of her notifications, comments pouring in from her smear post. Poor Valerie. Stay safe, Queen. Leave her. Come live with me, girl. Empty comfort from people who would never lift a finger to actually help her. I started with the car. Her little crossover SUV looked harmless in the driveway. Cute, shiny, practically begging for attention. But the truth was harsher. I financed it. It was under my name. Her access existed because I allowed it. And I no longer did. I took the keys, drove it across town to my warehouse, and parked it behind a wall of industrial trailers. It would take a search party to find it. Then I called the finance company. "I need to revoke an authorized driver," I said. "Of course," the representative replied. "Has there been a separation?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. A clean word. One that severed the last thread of obligation she thought she had to me. The paperwork was done in less than 5 minutes. Next, the credit card. Removing an authorized user should have felt tedious. Instead, it felt like cutting a puppet string. Then came the streaming accounts. Netflix, Hulu, my cloud storage. The music subscription she used to play the same 5 lo-fi tracks on loop while pretending to work. Change password. Change password. Change password. Every click was a door closing behind her. Even her precious gym membership, the one she said was essential to her mental wellness, gone with one phone call. The membership rep tried to upsell me on freezing the account instead. "No," I said calmly. "Terminating it." By the time I got back home, the condo felt like a different world. Quiet, still, balanced. Valerie didn't wake up until nearly noon. I heard her footsteps, rapid, light, panicked, darting around the hallway. A drawer slammed. Then her voice pierced the silence. "Where is my car?" I didn't move from the kitchen island, sipping my coffee. She came storming in, mascara smudged, hair wild, waving her phone like a weapon. "Amber, what did you do? The app isn't showing my car. My card is declined. The gym says my membership is canceled. What the actual hell?" I slid a folded paper across the counter. She unfolded it with trembling fingers. "As our living arrangement has ended, I have secured the vehicle financed in my name. You will need alternative transportation. Amber." Her face went red, then blotchy, then contorted into pure disbelief. You're insane," she screamed. "You don't get to just take things away because you're mad." "It's not yours," I said. "You were borrowing it." "I need it." "That's not the same thing." She threw her phone across the room. It hit the armchair and fell to the floor with a dull thud. That was her real problem. Through all the dramatics, all the outbursts, she didn't know the difference between needing something and being owed something. Within minutes, she dialed Chloe, then Jessica, then someone named Brielle, who I'd only heard about through gossip. Her friends arrived like a rescue squad. If rescue squads carried iced lattes, wore oversized sunglasses indoors, and contributed nothing to society. The moment they walked in, they launched into performance mode. Chloe crossed her arms. "We demand an explanation." Jessica puffed up like a hostile pigeon. "This is emotional abuse." Valerie pointed at me as if I were an escaped zoo animal. "She stole my car. She's trying to ruin my life." I held up a document, my shield of logic in the hurricane of their theatrics. Legally, I said. This is my vehicle. I was the primary signer. I revoked your access. That's all. Chloe scoffed. You're financially isolating her. That's illegal. No, I said calmly. I'm ending a free ride. Jessica threw her arms up. Where's she supposed to go? You're making her homeless. She's an adult, I replied. She'll figure it out. The room cracked with tension. Valerie's voice shrank from rage to desperation. Amber, please, I can't go anywhere. You're punishing me. Punishing. The word hung there, accusatory, dramatic, self-pitying. I leaned on the counter, meeting her eyes evenly. No, Valerie, I'm just no longer volunteering as your full-time provider. That evening, they tried the emergency meeting strategy. I returned from work to find all four of them on my couch, surrounded by expensive takeout they'd probably split on one card. Valerie sat center stage, crying, voice hoarse, recounting the tragedy of losing free food, free transportation, free everything. Donna, the only sensible one, looked uncomfortable. Maybe there's a misunderstanding, she murmured. The other three snapped at her like guard dogs. Don't take her side. You don't get it. She's emotionally manipulative. I held my tongue. I didn't need to defend myself. They were doing a terrible job making Valerie look sympathetic. I walked to the kitchen, unlocked the fridge with a slow click, pulled out a thick ribeye steak and set it on the counter. Then asparagus, garlic, butter. The sizzling pan was louder than their accusations. Chloe's voice cracked. You're cooking? After everything you just did? I seasoned the steak deliberately. Valerie stared at me like she expected me to break. I didn't. Not even a crack. I grilled the ribeye on my balcony, each sizzling flare a punctuation mark, then plated it with roasted asparagus and herb butter, the aroma filling the condo like a taunt. And I ate in silence, deliberately, slowly, swearing every bite. Valerie's face twisted with disbelief. It wasn't the steak that offended her. It was the realization that she finally had no power over me. None. After dinner, I made one more call. My attorney, I told the answering service. Tell Tom I need a formal eviction notice drafted. It was time to end this. Time to reclaim my home. Time to teach Valerie the lesson she'd avoided for years. Comfort is not a right, especially when you're living in someone else's life. The eviction notice arrived the next afternoon. I heard the knock while I was reviewing bids at my dining table. Valerie answered the door before I could stand. A man in a collared shirt, clipboard in hand, asked, Valerie Morrison? Her voice wavered. Yes? He handed her a sealed envelope. You've been served. Have a good day. She stood frozen, envelope trembling in her hand, mouth half open like she'd forgotten how to breathe. Chloe and Jessica hovered behind her, eyes wide, sensing drama before understanding it. The process server nodded politely at me as he passed, as if we'd shared an inside joke. Valerie tore the envelope open with shaking fingers. Her eyes scanned the page. Her jaw dropped. Her voice cracked. What is this? I set my pen down. It's an eviction notice. You can't evict me, she shouted, thrusting the paper into the air like it was burning her fingers. You're not on the lease, I said. You never paid rent. Legally, you're a guest. And now I'm asking you to leave, with more than the required notice. Chloe grabbed the document, reading quickly, face morphing from confusion to indignation. She has 30 days? Amber, what the hell? That's cruel. Jessica chimed in, voice shaking with performative outrage. She's practically homeless now. What kind of woman does this to another woman? I leaned back in my chair. The kind who finally stopped being used. Valerie blinked rapidly, tears gathering. I thought we were friends. No, I said softly. You thought I was a safety net. From that moment on, Valerie entered survival mode. But like a person who'd never learned to swim, she flailed through every attempt. Day 3. Her smear post slowed. Her comment section moved on to the next trending drama. Validation evaporated. Day 5. She asked Chloe if she could crash at her apartment for a bit. Chloe claimed she had severe allergies and a landlord who didn't allow long-term guests. Day 6. Jessica told her she had a strict roommate who hated overnight visitors. Day 7. Someone named Brielle offered thoughts and prayers, then blocked her the next day. Social media outrage is loud but useless. When Valerie needed actual help, real help, her support network vanished like smoke. Meanwhile, she tried everything on me. Guilt, anger, manipulation, crocodile tears. One night she cornered me in the kitchen, her voice hollow. Amber, you're ruining my life. Please, I don't have anywhere to go. You have 30 days, I said. That's more grace than you ever gave me. But I can't afford an apartment. That's not my responsibility. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. Responsibility was her kryptonite. Week 2 began the meltdown. Valerie left long voicemails. 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Sob-filled monologues about betrayal, about how I was heartless, about how she'd always admired me. She tried throwing Evan into the mess too. "Does Evan know you're doing this to me? You're tearing him apart." Evan wasn't torn. He had gone quiet, deeply, painfully quiet. And then, one night, he sat beside me on the couch, hands clasped, voice raw. "Amber, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize how much I let her take from you, from us." I didn't answer immediately. Not because I wanted to punish him, but because I needed him to hear the truth without cushioning. "I don't need you to be sorry," I said finally. "I need you to stop handing other people my resources and calling it compassion." He nodded, eyes wet. It was the first time he truly understood the weight I'd been carrying alone. Week 3 brought the most dramatic moment of all. Valerie showed up at one of my job sites. I was reviewing flooring installation when I heard shouting by the gate. Her voice sliced through the commotion. "Amber Owsley, how could you do this to me?" She marched toward me like a storm, hair frizzy, mascara smeared, wearing mismatched shoes, rage personified. Before I could answer, Jake stepped between us. "Ma'am," he said in a tone that could freeze lava, "you're trespassing on a private construction site. You need to leave." She tried to shove past him. Jake, 6'4", former Marine Jake, didn't budge an inch. "Leave," he repeated. Another worker, Brian, chimed in. "We saw your little Facebook post. We also heard her side. You should go." Valerie looked around, realizing no one here was falling for her theatrics. She left in tears. For the first time, I saw something in her crumble. After that day, she stopped yelling, stopped accusing, stopped pretending she held any moral high ground. She moved around the condo like a ghost, packing slowly, quietly, her bravado drained. One night, I overheard her on the phone with her parents. "No, Dad, I can't stay with friends." "No, they're not available." "Yes, I know rent costs money, but Dad, please, can you just— Fine, I'll come home. The conversation ended with a long, broken sob. Her parents agreed to take her back, but with rules. She had to work. She had to contribute $400 a month. She had to do chores. And she had to follow house structure. Structure. The thing she'd resented in my home. Now she'd drown in it. Moving day arrived on a cold, gray Saturday. Her father pulled up in a rental truck, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. He barely met my eyes as he helped Valerie carry out her things. She tried one last manipulation. Standing at the door with her suitcase, tears streaming, I studied her, the helpless posture, the trembling voice, the carefully crafted performance. I felt nothing. No guilt, no vengeance, just a clean, clear detachment. "I didn't destroy your life, Valerie," I said quietly. "I just stopped funding it." Her father's jaw tightened. He placed a firm hand on her shoulder and guided her toward the truck. For the first time, I saw embarrassment in his eyes. Not for me. For her. When the truck pulled away, I stepped back inside my condo. Her mess remained, scattered trash, makeup stains, marks on cabinet locks from when she'd tried to pry them open. I spent hours cleaning, wiping down every surface, scrubbing away every trace she left behind. With each room I finished, my home felt lighter, my chest felt lighter. By evening, the air finally felt mine again. Evan walked in, paused in the doorway, and whispered, "It feels peaceful." It did. It felt like home. 14 months. That's how long it's been since Valerie Morrison walked out of my condo for the last time, suitcase in hand, resentment pouring out of her like a storm she thought would drown me. It didn't. If anything, her departure was the first quiet breath I'd taken in over a year, and that quiet grew, slowly, beautifully, into a life I finally recognized as mine again. My condo doesn't echo anymore. It hums, a low, peaceful vibration of stability. The fridge holds exactly what I want. My tools are where I left them. The remote control hasn't wandered to the couch cushions or under Valerie's mountain of creative projects. And that constant, anxious question, what disaster will I come home to today, disappeared like smoke in sunlight. I rebuilt my routines. My company flourished. My sleep came back. Even my relationship with Evan found a new rhythm. Not perfect, not magically healed, but honest. For months after Valerie left, he carried this quiet guilt, the kind you don't apologize for once, but every day, in small, intentional actions. He showed up early when I worked late, helped at sites instead of staying passive, cooked, cleaned, asked, not assumed, where I needed support. He was growing. I could feel it. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't carrying the full emotional weight of us. Valerie, meanwhile, her story spiraled in the opposite direction. I didn't keep up with her life intentionally, but in a small town, or hell, even in a medium-sized city, karma travels on the wind. People love to talk, especially about someone who once talked so loudly. The first thing I heard was that she'd moved back in with her parents. Strict parents. Parents who'd spent years enabling her with soft boundaries and sighing forgiveness. Not this time. She had to work, contribute, follow rules. Actual rules. Reality hit her like a brick wall. Her creative career vanished under the pressure of rent contributions and chores. Her social media presence, once a curated collage of lattes, sunsets, and passive-aggressive quotes, withered into nothing. She'd post occasionally. People show their true colors. Never depend on anyone. Some women fear losing a man. I fear losing myself. But no photos, no friends cheering in the comments, no more filters hiding the truth. Her followers dropped by the hundreds. Influencer dreams died quietly. She took a job at a coffee shop. 5 a.m. Shifts. Difficult customers. Minimum wage. The exact life she mocked every time we went out for brunch together. The irony wasn't lost on me, and apparently it wasn't lost on her ex-friends either. Chloe and Jessica, the ones who once shrieked about feminism and financial abuse on her behalf, slowly peeled away. No more visits. No more emergency support sessions in my living room. No more posts about standing with Valerie. Instead, they turned her into cautionary gossip. Remember when Val tried to live off Amber? That girl had no idea how good she had it. She's working at that coffee shop now. Saw her last week. She looked rough. Support evaporates when it's inconvenient. But gossip is forever. 6 months after she left, I ran into her. By accident. Of course, by accident. My company had just landed a contract for a hotel renovation, one of our biggest wins yet. The clients took me and Evan to an upscale restaurant downtown to celebrate. Cloth napkins, chandeliers, the kind of place where waiters whisper. Our server approached with a warm smile and a stack of menus. And then she looked up. It was Valerie. All color drained from her face, her hands shook. She almost dropped the menus. She opened her mouth, maybe to apologize, maybe to curse, maybe to beg, but no sound came out. Just a tight, painful inhale. She stammered something to her manager and vanished into the back like a ghost fleeing daylight. Another woman took over our table, professional, unfazed. She had no idea she'd just stepped into the aftermath of a war. My clients never noticed. Evan did. His hand brushed mine under the table, a silent, "Are you okay?" I was. More okay than I'd ever been. As we left, I glanced through the window into the kitchen area. Valerie stood with her manager, shoulders hunched, eyes hollow. And that's when it hit me. Not satisfaction, not triumph, not revenge. Just clarity. For the first time, she was experiencing what I'd lived with for over a year. Consequences. The universe didn't punish her. I didn't destroy her life. I simply stepped out of the role she'd written for me. The moment I stopped carrying her, her entire world folded. Not because she was a victim. Because she'd built her whole identity on the belief that someone else would always catch her. And when no one did, she hit the ground. Hard. People often tell me the way I handled things was brutal or cold, but they weren't in my home. They didn't watch someone take advantage of every ounce of generosity I had. They didn't see the subtle manipulations, the emotional gymnastics, the way she weaponized weakness and ideology to avoid responsibility. They didn't see the nights I worked until my body ached, only to come home to a woman who contributed nothing but complaints. This wasn't vengeance. It was self-preservation, and in many ways, mercy. Because sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone who refuses to grow is stop cushioning their fall. If I learned anything, it's this. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors, and you decide who gets to walk through them. Valerie walked out, and I've kept that door locked ever since. Not out of anger, out of peace. A year later, I am exactly who I was before she entered my life, except calmer, wiser, and infinitely more protective of what I've built. My home is mine again. My time is mine again. My silence